But I thought it'd be just a good thing before we finish here, it's a short lesson, so let's just stop and do a chronology. We're going to take a chronology of the Gospels. Different scholars have slightly different views, but we know that Tiberius was appointed in 14 AD. Augustus died on August 19th of 14 AD, and that's when he took over. We know that Luke starts within the 15th year of Tiberius. Well, within the 15th years is 14 and some months, in other words, right? And so 14 plus 14 is 28. So this is year 28 by our reckoning, okay? So thus the ministry began in the fall of 28 AD, if we understand Luke correctly. Right? You with us? Okay. The fourth Passover was on April 6th of 32 AD, and this consists with the Sir Robert Anderson's dating that we're going to lean on when we get to the final week. Other chronologies that you'll run into, among other things, try to justify a Friday crucifixion. And so that's why they try to force it to a 30 AD or some other year thing. This is a set of chronology that's at least consistent with the hard points that we do know. And let's assume then it starts in autumn of 28 AD, begins at Nazareth, and then he goes down to the baptism at Bethabara, and as recorded, as we saw in Matthew 3 and elsewhere. And then he went to the Mount Temptation, recorded in Matthew 4 and Luke 4. Heads up to Salim and then to Cana, which was Nathanael's hometown. That's where his first disciples are called, John, Andrew, Peter, Philip, and Nathanael. That occurs mostly in John chapter 1. And then we have the first miracle, was the wedding at Cana in John 2. He moved to Capernum to set up his major operations there, really, in effect. He goes down to Jerusalem for purifying the temple. Nicodemus' visit, recorded in John 3. He tarries and get baptized. John the Baptist's last testimony was in John again in John 3. We're now in the winter of 29 AD. He's at Sychar, the woman of the well. Heads back up to Cana, where he heals the son of the royal official. Back down to Jerusalem, healing at the pool of Bethesda at John 5. We're now in spring of 30 AD in Jerusalem. John the Baptist is imprisoned at this point. He begins his public ministry in Galilee, and this is where obviously Matthew's emphatic on it. He has the mandate that declares the mandate from Isaiah at the synagogue in Nazareth. He's driven out, as you may recall. We talked about it in Luke 4 and Matthew 4. Then at Capernaum, he calls 4 disciples. Peter's draught of fish, healing of Peter's mother-in-law, the leper, and all of that. And at Capernaum, we find the healing of the paralytic, and this is in Luke. A lot of these things are in Luke and not Matthew. But Matthew's call is recorded there, of course, in Luke 5, but also we record it in Matthew 9. The ears of corn on the Sabbath, the man with the withered hand, his fame spreads. The Sermon on the Mount, which brings us to Matthew 5. The centurion's servant is healed. Then we go around Nain, where the widows of Nain's son is raised. John's query from prison, what's going on? We got that in Matthew 11, you may recall. He dines at Simon's house, returns home. Okay, then we get to 30 AD at Capernaum. The blind and dumb man are healed. This is where it's accused that this is all as of Beelzebub. That's a major turning point, Matthew 12. So that's when he launches the 7 kingdom parables in Matthew 13. We look more closely. There's a storm en route to Gadara. The demoniac is healed. At Capernaum, Jairus' daughter is raised, the one with the issue of blood. The 2 blind men, man dumb and possessed. All that was in Matthew 9, you may recall. Then at Nazareth, the people take offense. Apostles are sent out in pairs. And here we have the execution of John the Baptist, which is recorded in Mark 6. Return back to Capernaum. At Capernaum, there's the return of the 12. He retires to Bethsaida. Then again, he feeds the 5,000. Returns to Capernaum. He walks on water. The Sermon on the Bread of Life occurs in the John accounts, eating unwashed hands and all of that business. Then at Capernaum, he goes up to Sidon. He took a summer cottage in Tyre. I never knew that. It's in Mark 7. Helped the Canaanite woman. Then he gets to the region of the Decapolis. There was the deaf and dumb man, the feeding of the 4,000, which we read in Matthew 15. And Magdala, the Pharisees demand a sign. And Bethsaida, the leaven of the Pharisees, Herod, and so forth. And we're getting into autumn of 31 AD now. A journey northwards towards Caesarea Philippi. And that's where we just had at Caesarea Philippi, who do men say that I am? Then we get up to the Transfiguration, which I suspect is in fact on Mount Hermon, which is right up there. And we have the possessed boy, and at Capernum we have the tribute money question that comes up, and that's where we are so far. We're going to be heading down. We're at autumn 31 AD, and by the spring of 32 AD he'll be crucified. So we're down in the last 6 months of the ministry, if this reckoning is correct. Now, different scholars have a slightly different way of trying to reconcile the different Gospels, because indeed it turns out that not all the Gospels necessarily put them all in chronological order. And each Gospel, they're put in slightly different order, making slightly different emphatic points. And obviously each one of them is selecting but a small sample of what happened. So that's what we're facing.